Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video. The game I'd like to present today is my most recent game from my local chess club, where I'm participating in a 3-round Swiss tournament. My opponent in this game was the top rated player at the chess club and many times club champion, and I got the white pieces in this game, and knowing that he likes to play the Najdorf variation of the Sicilian defense, I had decided before the game started to play a system that my chess coach taught me a couple of months ago, which I think offers very reasonable practical chances for white and a decent game. So play started with e4, c5, knight f3, d6, and then bishop b5 check. And there are a couple of different ways to respond to this. Black can play knight to c6, knight d7, or bishop d7. Bishop d7 immediately is usually met by just exchanging on d7, and then black would play queen takes or knight takes. But oftentimes black would prefer to keep this bishop on c8 on the board. So knight d7 is the move that was played, and that is the most flexible continuation. So after knight d7, what we see here is that black is voluntarily pinning his own knight against the king, but he has the advantage of keeping this light squared bishop on c8. So his position is a little bit cramped now, but he should have no problems completing development and should have a very solid game. So now I castled, and we saw knight g to f6 from black. This move seems to be almost provoking white to play e5, but I analyzed some of the variations following this, and although it seems fairly balanced, I didn't really like the character of those positions. What I'd really like to do, and the basic premise of playing this bishop b5 system, is to play first c3 and then d4, where white will have control of the center and a good game. So I opted instead here just to play rook to e1, just reinforcing this e4 square. So black now played e6, which is a very solid move. It's preparing for the development of this dark squared bishop and then to immediately castle when black unpinning this knight. So it's a very solid system, and also this pawn formation with pawns on d6 and e6, a very common theme in the Sicilian defense, is very flexible because it gives black the option of later playing e5 or d5 as the position demands it, and he doesn't have to commit to making a decision right now. And for the meantime, he has what they refer to as a little center, like a small center. Instead of the pawns being on e5 and d5, they're on e6 and d6. So white should end up with better control of the center, but this position is extremely solid. And if you want to see some great examples of games involving this pawn formation, you should check out the World Championship games between Kasparov and Karpov, where there was many intriguing battles where white tried to undermine the center without much success. So anyway, I continued now with c3. So I'm just going along with my plan. Black plays bishop e7, preparing to castle, and now d4. So the game plan is fine so far. You know, white has a slight edge in this position, but black really doesn't have much to worry about either. So black just castles, and now we see the first of several inaccuracies in this game. And it's interesting to see how black, the superior player and high rated player, gradually outplays me from this position. He doesn't really do anything revolutionary or amazing, but he just keeps playing very good moves, and it's sort of a death by 1,000 paper cuts rather than a decapitation, if you will. So I played here bishop d7. A better move, or one of several better moves, would have been this idea of bishop to f4. It looks a little bit weird because the knight can swing to h5 hitting that bishop, but of course the bishop can drop back to e3, and then the knight on h5 would look a little bit silly, so that isn't really a concern. Another idea would have just simply to redeploy this bishop now to d3, where it can begin to exert some control over this long diagonal and also support this pawn center. But instead I played a strange move, and if I had thought more carefully at the board here, I think I would have avoided this continuation, which seems just to favor black. So I played here bishop takes d7, and really after black recaptures, the slight advantage has gone from white to black, and it's almost as if black had made the first move in this game instead of white. So I've given away an important tempo, and of course black now has the bishop pair, which will become very strong if the position opens up. So that was an unfortunate error, and there were a couple of inaccuracies like that that led to my demise. I followed up now with the move bishop g5, and this is an okay move. I think the best continuation for black here would possibly just to kick the bishop with g5 and make white commit to what he wants to do with this dark squared piece. Does he want to exchange or retreat? But the move my opponent found is also a decent try, and that is bishop to c6. And we'll see later that the influence of this bishop along this a8 to h1 diagonal is a considerable factor in the outcome of the game. I continued now with knight b to d2, just reinforcing the e4 square, which is now being attacked twice by the knight and the bishop. And now my opponent played h6. Here I played another inaccuracy. I think just maintaining the pressure by coming back to h4 would have been the most advisable continuation. But I had calculated 3 or 4 moves into this position, and I thought that the outcome would offer me a positional advantage. But I think, although there is some merit to this line for white, I had greatly overestimated it, and it didn't turn out to be as good as I'd hoped. So the game actually continued as I'd foreseen. So with bishop takes f6, bishop takes, and e5. So I'm really forcing black to play d takes e now. So after d takes e, d takes e, I'd seen that the bishop is now forced to retreat to this e7 square, and now the move that I'd seen that I thought was cleverer than it really turned out to be was c4, with the idea that this bishop now on e7 really doesn't have any good squares, and I was wondering, like, what is he going to do with this? But having said that, there are some problems for white now in coordinating pieces. Black's going to get some pressure down this d file, and also his knight is looking a little bit silly on the d2 square. So the game was interestingly poised for the second half, and my opponent just gradually started to outplay me from this position. Well, that concludes part 1 of this video. I hope you'll join me for part 2. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.